Welcome to episode 16 of 100 Years of Marine Corps Tankers, a station dedicated to honoring the legacy of Marine tankers and remembering the stories of what made the community special, told through the words of those Marines that towed the line. For today's episode, I will be joined by someone who I have had the pleasure of working with and watching throughout the years. Sgt Ryan Melo is a perfect example of the type of Marine that makes the tank community so special. Tough, driven, smart, and extremely proficient. Sgt Melo, welcome to 100 Years of Marine Corps Tankers, my friend.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing well, bro. Hey, in 2006, what made you want to become a Marine?
Back in 2006, I graduated from high school. Kind of got into, in trouble. Originally, I wanted to join the Air Force, but the job that they offered me, that had said I wait 6 months. So that next, literally within I was maybe a couple minutes, went to the Marine recruiter, and they sold me a bunch of stuff. And I was like, I want to do something a little bit different. Want to, serve my country and and do something different and travel, be able to experience certain things. So that's actually what got me into the Marine Corps. My stepdad was a Marine. He did a couple of years in the Marine Corps. My real father, he was in Special Forces in the Army, Delta Forces for a while. But I wanted to become the best because I saw how my dad has always been there for me, and he told me not to join the Marine Corps, but I was like, you know what, I want to do something a little bit different with my life and become the best at something. So that's what I wanted to do.
Absolutely, you certainly did. After graduating MCRD Paris Island, you reported out to beautiful 29 Palms, California, where you assumed duties as driver and loader for Company A, Alpha Company out there. What are some of your early memories of Company A?
With Alpha Company, that was actually a really good company. One of my tank commanders was Gunnery Sergeant Brown, so he taught me a lot of things about a different tank, about how the tanks was and stuff like that when it came to loading, driving. So I was pretty proficient at that. Gunnery Sergeant Brown actually pushed me to learn the next position. And the one thing about that company that was so unique was that that company just got back from Iraq, so they literally had, I think, within like a 7 to 10 month turnaround till the company went back out again, back out to Iraq. So that was actually a really good company. The training was intense. I switched positions from driver and loader on and off, so my driver can also get the experience as a loader. So being able to train with a great company like that, I definitely learned a lot, and I actually was able to carry that over to the next platoon um, for my next deployment.
And that brings us up to 2008, where you deployed again with Alpha Company to Iraq. What are some of your early memories from that deployment?
From that, probably one of some of the earliest memories was that the first time going overseas. I'm not gonna lie, like I was scared. I mean, anyone that tells you, when you're going into the unknown that they weren't scared is complete BS. But going over there, I was definitely, my head was on a swivel. I was able to learn about the terrain, about to land nav. So probably one of the most memorable experiences was probably being, on the outskirts of Fallujah, stuff like that. My tank commander, Gunnery Sergeant Brown at the time, told my crew stories about, back during the initial push with Fallujah. And also too, being able to see like the country and how it was, and, see how 1 minute people are friendly, the next minute, they, have some type of way with us going to the city. So, but I was able to learn, different things. I was able to travel within, like I said, all throughout Iraq, including Ramadi, Al Assad. Um, so being able to, even though we didn't get to, experience any firefights or anything like that, it was a very good experience because, again, I was able to take that deployment again and transition over to my second and third deployment.
In 2009, you had a real unique experience where you actually traveled to Australia to train the Australian tankers for a period of 30 days. I'm going to ask you a multi-part question here. First, what was the trip like? And then the second part of that question is going to be, are tankers tankers no matter the color of the uniforms?
Yeah, for the first question, that that experience with Australia was something else. Within at that time, we had Captain Crumble. He was our CEO at the time, and within that first week, they gave us Libo, and then they took Libo away from us. We actually, there was a big brawl that happened, and it was about 20 Marines fighting over, I think, like over like 100 people. This was included some lieutenants and captains that were in the fight as well. So that was a really unique experience. We did do a lot of training, but also too, we did play hard and party hard as well. And then training with the Australian tankers, that was actually a really unique experience because they were using they were using the M1A ones, but also too there was the Singaporeans that were out there training as well, and they had the Challenger 2. I'm sorry, the Leo 2. I'm sorry. And we were able to see how they train. They're different, the same fire command, especially with the Australian tankers, and even with their mechanics, working side by side by them, and then seeing how the mechanics work on the vehicles, and how they do their exercise and training was definitely a very unique experience. So especially through the terrain out there, because they had termite mounds. I mean, they had big trees, so it was a lot different from 29 Palms. Going from 29 Palms to actually Darwin, Australia.
Mhm.
Again, with the training, the environment, it was very, very unique. So, and also very big culture shock too out there, because out in Australia everything's a little bit more expensive.
Mhm.
But training wise, like I said, when it comes to tankers are always going to be tankers. They're always going to have that same mindset. Like I said, they work hard, they play hard. So that's one of the things that really stuck with me the most, was actually being able to train with the Australian tankers, and then after we're done with training, to be able to talk to them, communicate, and just see what they do on their day lives. Same thing what we do as tankers, especially when they're stationed over there and we're stationed in 29 Palms. So it's kind of a lot of the similarity.
2010, you were promoted to corporal, and then again deployed in support of the battalion landing team 1-1 for the 26th MU, 26th Marine Expeditionary Unit with Echo Company. And during this deployment, you traveled to Hawaii, Jordan, Dubai, Thailand, Kuwait, and Australia. So you certainly covered a good bit of terrain there, and saw some amazing locations. What are some of your fondest memories of this float?
Ooh, honestly, it wasn't so much the trip. It was actually the camaraderie from the platoon. That platoon was we were very, very close, and even to this day we're still very close. When it came to that, we were very close. That the training was still intense. Being able to train with the Kuwaitis, the Saudis, being able to go to Dubai and experience different cultures and different things. That was actually a very unique experience. But by far, probably the one thing that really stuck to me the most, and one thing I cherished thinking the most, was actually my tank crew. My platoon sergeant at the time was Gunner Sergeant Higgins. He was actually my tank instructor back at Knox. So being his loader, and then at that time we had a lap move, who was a gunner, so I was able to train him as well. And I had a phenomenal driver at that time. And that just that platoon and that crew alone was by far the most memorable thing, because again, we were all miserable, we were having fun, and seeing how our platoon commanders and platoon sergeants were out of Liberty compared to how they were on uniform was completely different. So we were able to interact. They were able to kind of talk to us and stuff like that. So that was actually a very unique thing. But I was able to get a lot closer and see how my staff NCOs, my NCOs were at that time, especially my commanding officer at the time, just to see the training and be able to communicate with them. So we did mountain warfare training, which completely sucked. I mean, we're tankers. I mean, we really don't hike up mountains or anything like that. So seeing when they give us another unique experience, like I said, more mountain warfare training. They gave us a goat and some MREs and say, hey, look, we'll climb this mountain, go have fun and go survive. And all of us are miserable. And, as tankers, we don't really walk. So that was actually being able to complain with one another and share each other's misery was a was a great thing for us.
Then shortly after this, you picked up sergeant, and that's where I kind of came to know you. How did your life change when you did pick up the rank of sergeant?
I had a lot more responsibility. I had to really uh, dig in and actually, fill that role in. Obviously be a leader, just like as any NCO, you want to, be a leader. Um, you know, but when I picked up sergeant, that was like, okay, I know here soon I'm gonna end up getting a tank. There's no way I'm gonna, stay a gunner for a certain amount of time. And my main goal was to become a tank commander. So by me picking up sergeant, that actually, changed my whole mentality when it came to actually, being more invested in the tanks and being able to not only learn the gunner's control system, but also the tank commander's position as well. Different engagements, being able to train Marines and be able to do not only MCIs with the Marines, but also be able to do physical training as well.
2012 and 13 were pretty memorable years for you because during this time you were with Delta Company, and it's here where you deployed to Afghanistan. And during this deployment, you had pretty interesting experiences. First off, you arrived in country in Christmas, right before Christmas of 2012, as the advanced party to the main body movement, as they arrived post the first of the year in 2013. Shortly after that, in February, you experienced a very kinetic firefight that lasted 3 days. And the note here says it's all while your tank was in degraded mode. And for the audience that may not know what degraded mode means, as tankers, we train and we fight all systems up, but that's not the only way that we fight. We also run our engagements during training, taking away certain aspects of the tank and inducing errors. And it's for this reason specifically, because you were called to duty to do your job in a very kinetic firefight, and your tank was not all up. How did you think the training as a tank commander assisted you during this most trying of times?
When it came to the training, one of the one of the big things for me was, as obviously when you're a tanker, you work as a crew. So I want to be quite honest with you. Without my crew, we wouldn't have had an outstanding, tank, especially when it came to maintenance. When it came to the degraded mode, my gunner told me he went to grab power and it started pouring out FRH. So at that time it was we kind of had to duct tape it. We were trying to do everything he can to prevent it from leaking. So my gunner was like, hey, I'm just gonna, he drew, obviously we had a sketch card and everything like that. So he knew where the ranges were before our hydraulic system went out. So we went by that sketch card. So what we did was, my gunner was actually able to duct tape a garbage bag around the hose. So when he grabbed power, when you induce, the range and everything like that, when you grab power, it automatically engages it. So he did that really quick. We were able to fight through the tank, and luckily we were able to pre-plot those positions from the sketch card that we had before when we replaced Sergeant Sanchez, because before that, Sergeant Sanchez, was almost Winchester on main gun and 50 cal and so on and so forth. So we went up to replace him for those 3 days. And so when that happened, my gunner, obviously was able to make a quick fix really quick. He had the sketch cards. We labeled everything as pre-target points. So when we were getting fired at, my gunner was able to go through his computer, be able to type in the range and everything, grab power, and then be able to use the manual control system to actually engage the targets out there. So, and that's the same thing with my loader as well. My loader and my gunner, they switched. So everybody knew what they needed to do. So mainly, I just used the 50 cal, and my gunner and my loader as well was able to use the main gun or the coax manually.
Yeah, I mean that's fantastic, and just to be able to hear that, because, like I said, we train so much for that, and to be actually to have the opportunity to do that, in a kinetic environment in real time, just fantastic. And kudos to
Yeah.
you, to your entire crew. I mean, obviously you guys knew what you were doing, and you certainly fought very admirably. But that's not where the story ends, because later that deployment, specifically on May 6th, you struck an IED while on patrol, and I know that certainly this is definitely a life changing experience. What were some of your thoughts running through your head when you hit this IED?
Um, during my actually during those thoughts, just to retract from the story, we were actually in I want to say we were right around where at the time Sergeant Escobar was, where he was stationed. I think in, I'm not sure Ghazi, but I think in Shivani. And we went up there, I guess, to go pick up some supplies or whatever. And at the time, they told us that there was someone coming in, and they needed tanks to go ahead and go out and do Overwatch. So myself and my four tank, we went out, and then we were trailing around, and then next thing you know, it was just, I didn't hear the bang. It was just all this dust and everything just kicked up. And next thing you know, I fall in the tank. My gunner was in the loader side, fell in the tank, and we didn't have any comms inside. So, I'm coughing, trying to try to get myself situated. And, my gunner, I yelled at the time as my gunner was okay. It's like, hey, my side hurts because I fell in the tank. My loader was in the gunner's hole at the time. I called him, make sure he was okay. We were yelling for my driver because that's what we were most concerned, because we didn't hear anything from him. I think he was trying to communicate through his comm helmet, but he wasn't able to. So we were yelling and screaming, and finally, after I think like the third or fourth try, was when he was like, "Hey, I'm good, I'm fine." And my loader, who was in the gunner spot at the time, was like, "Hey, I can't traverse, I have no power." So we did our 5s and 25s, and then we did the assessment. We were still on top of the tank. to see how bad, was the IED. So it blew off the comp idler, the number one, number two, and we had to wait for EOD and the recovery vehicle to come recover us. So that took about a couple hours. So we had to sit firm for a couple hours until the 88 came, and then they got us off the tank into the MRAP, and then they evaluate us afterwards. So that was definitely, that definitely was kind of scary. Like I said, it happened. Everything happened so fast. I didn't even hear the explosion. I just saw a bunch of dust and I fell right in. It happened so fast. So my main focus was my gunner, because my gunner was in the loader seat and he fell in just like I did, but he hit his side. So I made sure he was checked out by the docs and everything like that before we went back out on patrol. So and then they towed our tank back out to Cop Shergazi, where originally my platoon and the rest of the unit was.
So that deployment didn't end on that day, because later that next week, specifically May 13th, you were at the forward operating base where you experienced a vehicle-borne IED, improvised explosive device, that struck the compound. And this was all during the same time where one of your wing tanks got struck for the second time in one day. So that was quite a memorable day. What lessons did you learn personally from this deployment?
From that deployment, the one thing I learned was that complacency definitely, it kills. During that day on May 13th, Sergeant Sanchez was part of a red platoon. He went on a patrol. He hit an IED, and then they towed his tank back. And then him and I were talking, and the next thing you know, all of a sudden it just got really loud and there's dust kicked up and everything, so I couldn't see anything. And the next thing you know, we're just fires just going off everywhere. I mean, we're hearing lightning, we're hearing thunder, everyone's trying to get their stuff situated. And at the time, our CO was like, hey, everyone in the tanks right now, everyone in the tanks right now. So myself and the CO's gunner, my loader, my driver, they all took up positions, including my gunner as well. And we were able to go pick up people that were, still hurt. There was 3 killed, I think 10 critical, and then the rest were walking wounded. So my training kicked in, and that was one of the biggest things I was really worried about, not experiencing that combat element. How would I be able to react to be able to save a life? And when you keep training and keep training, keep training, it's like clockwork. And my training kicked in, at that time. Corporal Carnegie and Lance Corporal Moline, but all three of us went to go, help people out on stretchers. We were doing, combat lifesavers. I mean, it was a very chaotic day. Something that definitely changed my life forever. That's always going to be embedded in me. So, and with that and seeing, how everything 1 minute is perfectly fine and the next minute just boom, just pure chaos. It definitely really woke me up after that whole ordeal happened. I'll never forget. I was sitting there and I was smoking a cigarette, and I was like, man, I was like, man, this is such a crazy day. And at that time, Corporal Carnegie, that was actually his birthday. That happened. So him and I are sitting there talking, and I'll never forget it. He looked at me, he goes, yeah, he goes, what a great way to spend my birthday. And him and I just started laughing like nothing happened. And then, we just, then again, we got on the tanks and we literally sat on Overwatch for the next 48 hours. So that was the one thing that I took away from, was that, the training, the more you train, the more you're going to get proficient at it. And I do have to say that the training definitely helped, especially with the Combat Lifesavers course, and then doing, other training as well. The training does help out tremendously.
I mean, it's the progression after knowing you, since you and I shot that gunnery, all the way up until this day was just phenomenal. I mean, your level of maturity, your ability to command that tank, your ability to take control of the situation, and it was tested. It was tested that day, and certainly you proved who you are, and you proved your mettle, and I'm sure people are alive specifically for the assistance you gave them that day. So
Yeah.
you should be very proud, and I'm sure there's people out there to thank you.
Yeah, and also too, one of the biggest things that a lot of people don't do is I have to give my tank crew a lot of credit. On the third deployment, I had a gunner who was actually previously in Afghanistan before in tanks, so I had a really big help from him. Especially with the terrain. So him and I were able to bounce and feed off each other's ideas. like when it came about, packing the tank or, what we are going to do. So him and I had a great relationship on that. So I really do have to give it out to my gunner, my loader, and my driver. Without them, the three tank wouldn't be the three tank. So that was actually one of the biggest things I actually wanted to put out there. Because again, without the tank, without the crew, I mean, you're really, one person can't run a whole tank. So the like I said, my gunner definitely helped me out tremendously on that deployment. So
Outstanding. And then when you arrived back to the United States and came back, you PCA'd over to Headquarters Battalion, where you continue working and helping out Marines as serving as the range safety officer, where you facilitated marksmanship training for shooters and all in rifle and pistol. And we're going to take a pause here because this channel has a message, and obviously, I mean, you contacted me and said, "Hey, I want to come on here. I want to talk to today's generation. I want to get my message out. I want to talk to these guys and kind of give them your experience up to this point." And even though you've been out of the uniform since 2015, the message that you gave today is just as powerful as it was back then. But having this platform, having this opportunity to speak to the Marines that are making this tough decision post the divestment of the Marine Corps armor, what do you have to say for these Marines?
I say for the Marines that are, getting ready to, like I said, to get out and process out, make sure that they always have a plan. That's always a big thing. I got out in 2015. I was very fortunate that I had a plan way beforehand, to go to school. And, I always tell Marines, if you're going to get out, make sure you have a primary, a secondary, tertiary, you have a plan from A to Z. And if A to Z is already filled, then you go 1 through 10. So again, I think what it is that with Marines you have to have a plan. If you don't have a plan, you can't really be successful. The Marine Corps hands you the tools, you just have to know how to use them. Like I said, there's tons of there's tons of help out there for veterans. Sergeant Escobar has helped me out tremendously as well, when it comes to, let's say, like Wounded Warriors, or different other facilities, stuff like that, when it comes to like VA loans or the GI Bill or folk rehab. So again, I always like to tell Marines to make sure you have a plan, and if you don't have a plan, or talk to someone that's going to be able to help you design a plan to kind of get to where you want to go in life. Don't be afraid to call up a Marine you served with, or someone that is being successful right now. So I always tell Marines to always always strive for excellence, and just always have a plan. Never give up. As Marines, we were told, you keep fighting the fight until you have nothing left, and that's what I'm doing. I got out of I got out, and I stumbled and bubbled, and in the civilian one, I'm still stumbling and bubbling, but I'm still striving for excellence. I still go to class every day when I don't feel like going. I stay up 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and study for exams that are due, the following day. So, you just have to strive and look at that end goal, or that end game for you, what you want when you do transition out of the Marine Corps, what you want to do with your life.
That's such a powerful message, and I'll take a moment here to thank you personally. And like I said, I shot a gunnery together, and I got to know you inside that tank, and you helped me tremendously from that point on. And I'm super proud of everything you've done up to this point, and also the fact that you're graduating here soon with your degree. I mean, that's absolutely fantastic. So great on you, and I appreciate the message you provided to the Marines. What parting comments do you have today?
Um, the One of my parting comments is that, again, I just want to say, I'm very thankful for you taking the opportunity to go ahead and do this. I like I said, what really did it for me was I saw Sergeant Escobar on there. I served with him as well, along with Gunnery Sergeant Chewy. I think it's Gunnery Sergeant Chewy or Master Sergeant Chewy now. I don't
Mass Sergeant,
remember
yeah,
which one is which.
he's Mass Sergeant,
Master Sergeant Chewy.
yeah.
I'm pretty sure I'll hate myself for that later. But being able to see these guys I served with, and hearing their experience, especially with Sergeant Escobar, that was a very touching story, and that's actually what made me want to contact you, because I heard his side of the story, and I was like, let me go ahead and at least get my part out there. Granted, I didn't serve 12 plus years like how he did or some of the other Marines, but I do believe that within those 9 years that I had a very outstanding and very successful career in the Marine Corps, especially in tanks. And I deep down, I want to thank everyone that from my first platoon sergeant, my first platoon commander to the very last, that for helping me shape me for the person I am. I'm able to take those leadership traits that they instilled in me, and I'm able to kind of create my own. So with that, I'm very thankful for what the Marine Corps did, and for what the tank community has done. So that's always a very positive thing. And again, I want to give a big shout out to my old crew from Afghanistan, and all my other deployments. My second, and my first deployment. I had a really good work up with everybody, and it was absolutely phenomenal to work with like the best of the best. The best and the craziest motherfuckers I've ever served with. So I don't know if I can curse or not, but I mean
You
it's
can.
pretty
You're
true. I
good.
mean,
You're
beyond
good.
that, beyond that iron beast, doing 45 miles an hour with just your crew and just nothing but hate and discontent is the best feeling in the world. So, and that's pretty much all I have to say. And like I said, if anyone needs anything, just give me a call.
Well, thank you very much. And
So,
I'm going
or
to take a
contact
moment
me or
here.
email me.
Yep. I'm going to take a moment to thank the viewers, everyone who continue to support the channel, the subscribers who subscribe. Thank you very much. If you have not already done so, please do so. That is what gives this channel momentum, and we're still continuing strong, still growing every day. So thank you, Sergeant Melo. I appreciate you coming on here. Thank you to the audience.